Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest today is Scott Driscoll, a law enforcement officer, educator, parent, and a company called Internet Safety Concepts. It's his first time on the show, so welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We're here to talk about security, cyber security, internet security, and just some of the dangers that exist, especially with kids. And I guess this is the time of year as we tape this. We're going into the holiday season, and we know the kids will be getting all their gadgets for Christmas, and everything has the internet on it these days. But let's talk about you. How'd you get started?
Well, I'm a retired police officer, and my journey started into internet safety by an assignment I got. I was assigned to the FBI's Innocent Images Task Force. So with that assignment, for 5 years, I was a 13-year-old girl on the internet, and I was arresting people from all over this country who were hurting our children. And because of that, I got a passion of trying to teach and educate people to make smart choices when we use technology. So kind of evolved from my experiences of what I was seeing firsthand as an officer protecting children. I wanted to see if we could educate, and it just kind of started from there.
Were you technically minded as a person in general, would you say?
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, were you comfortable with technology, with the internet, with cyber stuff in general?
I was a little bit into computers,
Okay.
not much. It was pretty much by the seat of my pants. I had to.
You could
figure out-
type and yeah.
I could type, and I could type like a kid because
Right.
a lot of spelling errors. I wasn't that great, and I dove into talking to kids, learning how to be them on the internet, and it just kind of evolved from there.
Did kids help you with the vernacular?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
the DARE officer at the time, so
Yeah.
a lot of times I'd go out to recess with my DARE students, but every once in a while I'd come out with a notepad, and they knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted to know what they were doing online, and I learned a lot from kids. And still to this day when I do my presentations, I learn a lot from the kids I work with because they want to be safe, and if I don't talk about an app or program, they'll bring it to my attention. Hey, you didn't cover this one. And I love that kind of thing. So I've learned a lot when it comes to technology from the kids.
So what happened in those early days when you were working online that you got into your head and said, you know what, this is no good. This is no good. I mean, you explained what you were doing, but how did it transfer into what you're doing now?
Well, I saw, unfortunately, not only were we undercover, we were investigating cases of child pornography where kids were actual victims. And we also got involved in cases where people would be lured away from their families. And that's something I didn't want to see happen.
Yeah.
Most of my career I was spent as a youth officer, so working with kids has always been a passion for me and keeping them safe. So because of what I saw, and it shocked me, I was in awe over some of the things I saw. I didn't think a lot of parents knew about it. I definitely didn't think kids were thinking about the safety aspect of it. So it kind of just evolved from what I saw, what kind of disgusted me, what motivated me. I didn't want to see kids become victim to it.
Not to mention you were a parent, right?
am.
And I
Two
mean, that's
kids.
talk about a vested interest in getting this stuff off the internet if possible.
Some
right?
of my coworkers used to give me a hard time because on my undercover screen, you'd see some of the most horrific images you've ever seen. And I had a picture of both of my kids on either side, and they said, why? I said, that's my motivation. If I got frustrated, I'd look to my left or right, and I saw my kids. I'm like, it's not going to happen to them. And then anybody else that can learn from it, it's a plus.
The fact that you discovered it means that there are places where, you know, you can hide. You know, you can be anonymous, and that kind of material, if you search hard enough, apparently you can find it.
It is. It's a little more challenging these days. We've caught up a lot with some of our laws and some of the technology we can use to track things down. We're seeing a lot of good police officers throughout their country making some fantastic arrests on bad people that are hurting kids. But in just general, social media alone, if we don't think about safety when we use it, it might not be the bad guys or the predators, but we're sharing way too much information today.
Yeah, everybody is. And kids, that's where they are. They're on social media. You could say they're on the internet, and they are, but where they really are is all over social media. And even things like Facebook aren't cool for kids anymore. They're more into the Instagrams and Snapchats than they are even what we think.
A lot of kids refer to Facebook as the grandparents network when I talk to them.
So
and
true.
I kind of say, listen, it's not the grandparents network. It's an older style, but they still have their accounts.
Right.
And that's what I kind of tell you. Listen, your digital footprint's alive and well on Facebook, even though you're not using it. We have to think about what are we generating and how much are we sharing with the world.
Right, and it stays out there, right? You could just because you delete a post or a tweet doesn't mean that it's gone forever.
Deleting it is certainly the best approach, but it doesn't guarantee because if someone screenshotted it, someone forwarded it, someone retweeted it, we've lost control as soon as we do it.
Internet Safety Concepts, it seems like this is the perfect time for a company like that to exist because everything, it seems, is connected to the internet, and kids are into their tech gadgets and their phones and their iPads and their laptops and everything else they can go online with.
Absolutely. I started my company in 2008 and just seeing the technology grow. I mean, when I first started, it was MySpace, and we don't even talk about MySpace anymore.
That's ancient.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's good to see the growth because there's some positive things that have come from. Some of our social media sites out there now are giving us the safety settings that we need to stay private.
I was going to ask you things like, does Mark Zuckerberg provide the safety features that are necessary to protect people, especially kids?
Well, it's not just much that company. A lot of the companies, what they'll do is they'll provide us privacy settings. My concern is when we download the app the first time or the program, it's not set to private. We have to go in there and do that. And unfortunately, we're a fast-paced society, kids and adults. We download the app, we start using it. I think we got to take a breath. And when you download an app, read the privacy policy, understand what the app can and can't do, and is it set the way I want it to be set? Some people like having other information out, other people don't. It's got to be right for you, especially if it's parents overlooking what the kids are doing. Privacy settings have to be set, and it's something we have to know about.
And one of the tough things is that parents, a lot of parents, aren't necessarily technical minded and even realize that these things exist, right?
When I do presentations with families together, I always tell the kids, hey, as parents, we understand safety. As kids understand technology. Let's meet in the middle. Technology is good. It's not going away. And there's more positives than negatives.
But it's how you use it?
It's how you use it. It's what it is. And when kids get their parents involved and we discuss privacy settings, that's when it can be used in a very safe, fun, educational way.
Now, I would imagine one of the best ways to get the word out, especially to as many kids as possible, is to go into schools. And that's exactly what you do, right?
That is what my company does. I go into corporations, I go into schools, I run parent presentations. I am constantly all over the place talking about this.
How do you stay up to date on everything that's going on?
A lot of research and talking to the kids. When I am done with well, first of all, my approach with presentation, it's not a lecture. I don't come into the schools and tell the kids the apps they got to get off. I lay it out just like you and I are talking, that these are the reality and facts, make your choices. And because of that approach, kids come and talk to me every time. And at the end of my presentation, I just become a sponge. And kids will talk to me. And then I work with families. Parents will call me up and we've got this concern. I learned from there. And I really network with professionals. I network with parents. I train law enforcement officers throughout the state of Connecticut how to conduct investigations and what they need to do to protect themselves. So I am constantly talking about technology.
You get blown away sometimes when kids will come up to you and tell you something and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. And it changes and all of a sudden you have a whole new, set of instructions that you might give parents because of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They'll come up and they'll mention new apps. And
Yeah.
I hear about new apps all the time. Usually I wait for a couple kids to tell me about it before I put it on my radar because there's so many that come out. There's a lot of flash in the pan, what I call. They're here and they're gone.
Right.
But when the kids come to me and you can see it in their eyes, they want to talk to me about why they're concerned. And once a kid's concerned about the safety, I think we should all be concerned about the safety.
And is it like you said, when a kid downloads an app, they're going to digging into it, the guts of it right away. So they start learning everything about it and what they can do and what they can't do and how secure it is or unsecure it is and what they can get away with.
And unfortunately, because we take that approach, we learn by mistake sometimes.
Yeah.
And with the technology mistakes, it can be permanent. It can be something that follows us. So I'm always telling the kids, slow down, understand, research it a little bit. Learn about the apps and programs before we just jump into it. Because with GPS and with sharing, we're sharing a lot of information if we don't have everything understood.
And as we tape this show, it's a few days after the presidential election, and everybody got very emotional and they posted their thoughts and feelings online and they're all over social media. And you would imagine in a lot of cases maybe there were some things that they regretted saying online, get deleted. And now we hear these days that potential employers will go and look at your social media before they decide if they want to hire you or not.
Absolutely. Social media is part of any background check these days. And it could just be as simple as Google, Yahoo, or Bing searching their name. So what I always challenge people is, if you have it set to private, but also do a self-check. Go into a search engine and check yourself. See what your digital footprint, or what I like to refer to as a digital tattoo. See what's out there about yourself. But not only search your name, I always recommend search your email addresses as well. Because every social media site we join, everything we blog about requires us to log in with an email address. That email address is a huge part of who we are. And I've worked with people on background checks, and it's amazing what you can find by searching someone's name and email address.
Even if the person of the social media page thinks that they're not sharing as much personal information as in fact they are. Right?
There's a lot of being shared. Data mining is occurring all the time.
Right.
There's a lot of information we share. And there's ways to get control over it, but we just have to remember it's not 100%. Privacy settings are great, but there's a lot of ways around them.
Right. Probably, obviously, one of the best ways is to resist sharing as much as you kind of would like to. It's kind of counterintuitive in the sense that social media is designed for that purpose, but wait a minute, you don't necessarily have to, right?
Well, that's a great thing. Social media is what I think social media, and a lot of people, is for communication, and it's awesome. but we communicate what we're doing every step of our life with our check-ins and this and that.
Right.
I'm trying to change that habit. Why can't we post a picture and say, had a great time yesterday, instead of having a good time now?
Right. What I like personally, what I like to do is if I go to a place, and I like to have fun with the check-ins every once in a while, but I check in as I'm walking out the door. That way, I don't want to be bothered sometimes. And somebody, if they did see me on Facebook at this restaurant, well, I've already gone, you know.
And we're creatures of habit, too.
Right.
If we go to the same restaurant every Friday night from 6 to 8, what's our home going on? If someone knows that we're home
Right.
or we don't have our privacy settings set and a stranger sees where we live, now it doesn't take much to put a pattern together of when your house is open. It's just little things. If we just tweak how we use it, it can be a lot safer.
How about when you post that you're flying to Hawaii? I'm on vacation. That you're gone at least a week.
They had commercials in that during the Super Bowl last year. Allstate Insurance did that whole thing where mayhem was in someone's house.
Yes.
And he held up a picture of a phone, and they were halfway around the world. Check-ins are something that really, I do them occasionally, but if you check in, let's just use Facebook. Every check we've checked in, it's still part of your PIN map. It's still there. We're sharing too much information.
So how does it work? Do the schools reach out to you? Do you reach out to them and offer your services and say, here's what we do, in this day and age, this is important? How does it work?
Right now, if schools are interested, they can reach out to me. I've pretty much, that's the way it works. They reach out to me.
But you're in so many, so obviously a lot of them have reached out to you.
I have a client list that's huge, and I'm very thankful of that. I go into the same districts every time, but what's good is the word is spreading, and I'm going to different ones, and I'll travel anywhere. It's not just Connecticut. I will travel anywhere to do these presentations.
Let's take a break and come back because we got a lot more to get to. Give out a website for people to go and learn more.
My website would be www.internetsafetyconcepts.com.
The company is Internet Safety Concept. His name is Scott Driscoll. We'll take a short break and come right back. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay right there. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. My guest is Scott Driscoll, law enforcement officer, former educator, parent, and started a company called Internet Safety Concept. We've learned a lot already. I guess, some things to be afraid of, but should you be afraid, or is that a good thing to kind of keep you in check so that you stay safe? Fear, is that a good thing?
Fear can be a good thing, but I think awareness is what I try to focus on a little bit more. Let's prevent the fear, but be aware of what we're doing. And understand that there's great things to the technology, but if we don't think about safety, that's where we can run into problems. So be aware of the potential for things that could go wrong.
Are we accepting the fact that the world exists on apps now? I mean, that's where, I guess mobile has surpassed desktop web surfing, I guess, now, because everybody has a phone and a lot of people have the smartphone. So their apps are what it is now. Right?
Smartphones and apps are definitely increasing in popularity, but what's a concern for me is they're dropping in age. When I go into elementary schools, there are 4th and 5th graders that have better technology than me.
And they probably know more about the phone. Right?
Yeah, that's because I'm not going to say it's their life, but I remember it used to be VCRs and all the things when I was a young kid. Now it's technology in the palm of our hand. And it's good, but do we need to have our kids have unlimited data plans and the best of technology?
I know.
Sometimes parents don't want to say no, and it's okay to say no if the kid's not ready for it or the parents aren't ready to give it to them.
My director will be annoyed because I tell this story a lot, but I think this is a perfect time. There was a little kid who was given a magazine. He placed it in front of him. The kid took his finger and tried to touch and swipe the magazine because he was more used to an iPad than he was a paper magazine. Can you believe that?
There are college students that try to turn in homework assignments spelling the word you, because all we're doing is our acronyms on text messages and stuff. It's amazing how it's changed everything.
But if we accept the fact that that is the technology today, we just have to learn to be safe. And you said one of the biggest concerns for you is the minimum age. Does it depend on the maturity of the child when they should get their first cell phone? Parents will always say, well, just in case of emergencies, I want to be able to be in touch with them.
Yeah. And I'm all for having something for in case of emergencies. And there's different phones besides the latest,
iPhone?
greatest smartphones that we can provide our children. There are tracking phones. There's devices that we can use that kids can just make phone calls and GPS can track them. So there's a lot of things we can use to our benefit for safety. My concern, and when people ask me what the minimum age is, maturity's got a big part of it. Families have to make their decisions on what's right. If your child is not right, that can handle the data plan and all the apps and programs, maybe the smartphone's not the way to go. If you want something for an emergency, flip phones. I think a lot of people forget in schools, there's a telephone in almost every room, and a lot of parents will come to me and say, well, if my kids have an emergency during the day, If they're at school, they're taken care of. The schools will allow them to make an emergency phone call. But if it's really something they need, a flip phone will work. You don't have to give them everything. And when it comes to the minimum ages for the apps, that's where I'm running into some problems with parents. And what I mean by problem is they're just not honoring that minimum age and supporting that. Most social media has a minimum app of 13. Now, I don't think those minimum ages are because of how the kids use it. It's what they get exposed to and who we share the internet with. Most kids use it for fun and use it to entertainment and enjoyment. It's what they get exposed to. So when I go onto apps like Musical.ly or Instagram and I see kids 9, 10 years old, that's a concern for me. And I just think parents need to understand minimum ages should be enforced.
Don't most teachers restrict their personal phone access, the students' phone access in the classrooms? Like you can't use it.
It's a school by school basis.
Yeah.
Some don't even allow them into certain areas of the school. Some the kids can carry them. It's school by school, but it also can be a huge distraction.
Oh, yeah.
I'm doing presentations on technology safety,
they're going
and I
off.
see the glow from the faces as the kids are using it as we talk. Now, maybe they're checking their settings. Okay, that's okay, but it might not be the right time for them to even have it out.
We talked a lot about check-ins on Facebook. Another thing that irks you a little bit is location services. Talk about that.
Well, a lot of the times when we download apps, and if a screen comes up and says, do you want to push notifications with this? If we click OK with that, and that app can use GPS, we might have already given permission for them to work together. So what I always say is, right when you download the app, say no to that. You can always go back and rechange it. When it comes to location services, we're sharing too much. Whether it's attached to a photo in Instagram, whether Snapchat uses it, Musical.ly, a program where we just share videos, it can tell you if the video is made in your area. It's just way too much information to be sharing. And that's where I say if we think about how we use it, we can use it in a safe way. Now, some phones allow you to turn off location services by program. Other ones, it's an all or nothing. And that's a tough call. As a parent, I want my daughter's GPS on her phone.
So that you can find out where she's at.
God forbid anything happens, I can track her down. But I also, and that's one of the reasons we went with the style phone we went, because I can turn off individual apps. So our cameras want to work with our GPS.
Right.
And it embeds what they call the metadata. It embeds the longitude and latitude. We don't need that. And that's where a lot of people aren't aware of just how much information we're sharing.
Right. You can know that I'm in Chicago. Do you need to know the longitude and latitude?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And these programs are doing it. I mean, through Twitter, through all the social media sites, the big ones, they have location services.
What are the big boys like Apple and Google and Microsoft? They're all about the technology. They want to advance their technology. Are they more in the line of, well, you just learn to use it safely and it's going to change your life, you know?
I believe that's their approach. I can't speak for them. I believe that's their approach because if you read the privacy policies, which none of us do, they spell it out for us, what's there, and they spell out the positive and the concerns. So we really can't blame them. They offer the services. They spell it out for us. It's us as users. We have to make the conscious effort to understand what we're using.
So one thing that would improve life greatly for parents would be for them to be able to have access to the apps, passwords, usernames to social media sites, but obviously kids resist and in fact might even lie a little bit, or maybe have like a separate page where they won't know.
There's fake accounts.
Right.
And one of the things I always stress onto the kids is if you jump into this journey on social media based on a lie, your safety's crumbling around you as you do it, because when things do get out of control, if they do, your support system's not going to be there, because if our kids' first thought is, my parents will ground me for life if they know I'm on this app, safety's already at risk. They should be able to communicate and show their parents what they're doing. What I tell kids every day, if you can show the world on a social media, you should be able to show your parents as well. Parents need to sit down. What's your password? What's your account? If there's a fight, maybe that's the time to take the devices away because they haven't earned that maturity level. Or, why can't I see? That should be a warning flag for parents. If you can't show me what you're doing, why? Are you the bully? Are you saying the things that maybe shouldn't be said? Are you the victim of something? Communication is so important between parents and kids on this.
Would you agree that the way kids are wired these days, one of the most brutal forms of punishment is to, in fact, take away their phone or their iPad or Kindle or whatever?
There have been kids that say, take away my car before you take away my social media.
They go through withdrawals.
Yeah, they do. I know people are looking into the whole addiction aspect.
Yeah, do you buy into that? Or?
I do. I see. I mean, it's not just for kids.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times do we see adults walking down the street and we're into our phone? I'm guilty. I check my phone all the time. I do believe it's there. It's way above my head to say absolutely, but I know there are studies being done on that, and I think it's going to come out that there could be an addiction to it. Is it the worst addiction? No, because there's a lot of positive what we're doing.
Right. And also, education these days, there's no chalk blackboard anymore. It's a digital board, and they're using either their laptops or their tablets on the. I mean, that's what they communicate, what they partake with social media on is also what they do their homework on, what they do research on, and how they get good grades.
I mean,
right?
a lot of schools are iPad schools. The kids get issued iPads. That would be great in carrying home one iPad instead of a backpack full of books. There's so many great aspects to it. And those schools are taking the right steps on security and controls. But it's the way our generations are going. We're looking more towards technology.
Technology is now invading cars, invading refrigerators to let you know that you need to buy milk.
A smart refrigerator. Who would have thought that? That's
when
crazy.
it's smarter than you, that's a problem.
And when you have full conversations and you're losing the conversation and you lose the argument, that's where we lost control.
Is there anything that you can see like on the horizon that could be the next big concern, or that you think we could nip in the bud now?
I think the way some of these social media sites are doing their updates, Snapchat, for example, the latest update to the messaging program, you can do more than just send pictures. You can make video conferencing calls. You can make phone calls. What I think these apps are trying to do is be inclusive into so many different things that we're going to lose control quick.
Yeah.
What the next big thing is, I can't tell. I never would have thought Musical.ly would have taken off the way it was. But then we've seen some positive. The app Vine is now going away.
Right.
So we're seeing changes, but I'm seeing some of these big-time apps expand on what they're doing, and that's where we need to really keep up on what happens, because if let's say Instagram goes the same way Snapchat's going, there might be a way of more direct communication with people, and if we don't have our privacy settings set, that could be a dangerous game.
The funny thing about Snapchat is I think sometimes maybe kids use it the most, a false sense of security because they know that the picture goes away after 24 hours. So they may be less inhibited with what they send picture-wise because they say it's going to go away. Now, you could still save the picture, a person with a screenshot, but you get notified of that. But still, that false sense of security is there.
Snapchat there's a lot of positives to Snapchat. A lot of fun. I do think most kids are using it appropriately. Maybe goofy pictures might be the right word for it. The problem with Snapchat is if I send you a picture, I think it's going to disappear in 3 to 10 seconds. As you said, you can screenshot it. There's also something called replay. And I point that out to the youngsters. How does something disappear if I can replay it?
Right.
And then you add the stories element to it. Like I said, for 24 hours, there's unlimited views. We've lost control. And I don't blame the company. They came out with updates, and they've worded it all out. This is what happens if you use our product.
Probably knowing that not everybody's reading it. Yeah.
It could be that approach. There's a lot of, like I said, I don't think the companies come out and say, we're going to do things to make sure that people are unsafe. They do things to enhance their product. It's on us to make sure we use it the safest way.
How many people actually read a user agreement whenever it comes out?
A lot.
Boy, you spin through that, you scroll through that real quick and hit I agree. Could be anything in there.
Oh, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
If you read them, sometimes it's almost startling on some of the ones you read.
What do you say to these crazy conspiracy theorists who, and I don't think it's crazy at all, but like to put a little piece of tape over the camera on their laptop, iPad, TVs have a camera now?
There's always, with technology and when people that know how to get around things, there's always possibilities. For people that have done that, I always tell them, if it makes you feel more safe, go ahead and put a piece of electrical tape over it. Go ahead, that's your choice.
Right.
I have not, through my computer
Nobody wants to see me, so,
through my years of doing computer forensics, also doing that at co-work, I've never seen someone hack into my computer screen. Could it happen? Sure, it could. You can also disable the camera. There's ways of doing that. So it's all something putting our mind at ease. And if you have a good sense of security and you feel safer doing that, go ahead and do it.
What's your thought on today's antivirus software, malware, all that stuff?
I think it's you need it. You need to have some up there, but the problem with they're coming out with so many new things, that is one thing that if we don't update on a regular basis, there's no sense having it.
And they give you an update every day practically.
Every day, but some people decide they don't want to do the automatic updates. Update it as often as they will because those companies are fantastic on catching it, coming up with the new patches or plugs to it, and getting it out there.
Same thing with the OS updates?
Yep.
Yeah.
Update them as much as possible.
So, some people for some reason feel the need to have the control. So maybe they'll allow it to be downloaded, but they want to choose when they update it and install it.
If they do that, I think it should be more often than we probably are doing. That's why I like the automatic updates because it takes that one thing I've got to worry about off my plate. It's there and it does it for me.
We are just about out of time, so just a little bit more time to give out the website for people to go and learn more, which is?
It's at internetsafetyconcepts.com.
What's on the website?
I have a whole bunch of information, a little bit about myself, description of my presentations, but I also offer a multimedia page, conversations like this that people can learn from, and I have a tab just for parents where they can go and learn a whole bunch about today's social media apps. I offer online contracts for families to use together, and it's also got information where people can purchase my book.
All right. Scott Driscoll, law enforcement officer, educator, parent. The company is called Internet Safety Concepts. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube sites. Till next time, I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Take care.